Hello, I'm Rico Caviglia, and this is your Ageless Body Self-Care Guide, your operations manual for your body and for your mind. And the title of today's session is, it's all about fermented foods, how eating fermented foods can really boost your immune system, which is so important today, and can aid your digestion and has many, many different really health benefits. So we're going to learn all about that. And we have a great expert today. His name is Jeff Ziebelman. He founded Zymbiotics 6 years ago with just from his kitchen and his production facility and one farmer's market to sell his fermented foods. And then 2 moves and 3 expansions later, now Zymbiotics now supplies several hundred retail stores in the Midwest, including Whole Foods and a number of large regional co-ops as well. And he has online sales all over the country as well. So he produces some really great, healthy fermented foods. So Jeff, welcome to the Ageless Body Self-Care Guide. Thanks very much for being here.
Well, welcome, Rico, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, my pleasure. So we're going to learn all about fermented foods, which I think, a lot of us, particularly now, who are trying to be healthier, we hear about fermented foods and we know that fermented foods, we hear that they're good for you, but probably a lot of people still haven't even tried them and they don't really know why they should be eating fermented foods. So we're going to find out all about that. So tell us, first of all, a little bit about the history of fermented foods and what is lacto fermentation?
Sure. So there are 2 types of fermentation that people would be aware of. One is alcohol, which is mostly done by yeast. And then those lacto fermentation, which is where lactobacilli convert carbohydrates, which are sugars and starches, into lactic acid, enzymes, and bacteria that are beneficial for your digestion. So the lactic acid increases the acidity of the pH in your stomach and such. But fermentation is actually, there's evidence that shows that it's over 6,000 years that people have been fermenting. And there's research that they found pottery shards from when the Great Wall of China was built, and there was sauerkraut residue that they found from that, which was in the 700 BCs. The Romans used sauerkraut in barrels when they would go on campaigns, and partially was to feed their soldiers and the other part was to reduce scurvy. So it's been a part of almost every culture throughout the world, through all of civilization. And it's just an important part of what people had eaten for years. It was a way to preserve food, to enhance the flavor of food. It increased the safety of it. And eventually they were learning that it had a lot of health benefits for them.
So how do you think I was just going to say, how do you think they discovered it? They just cut it by accident? They just fermented something fermented and then they realized that, hey, it stays edible for a really long time and it also tastes good?
There's a number of theories. One is, for instance, they would collect honey and they would store it. But if there was water in the honey, the yeast in it would convert it into alcohol, so they'd have mead. There's theories where they would store milk in sacks that were made from the guts of goats or other animals. And that had the chemical that you make cheese from. So that they would, it would coagulate, it would form cheese. And then they learned that, milk lasts for a day, but cheese can last for months. And, they might have found grapes that were naturally fermenting. And then after a time, they started to learn that, if you keep vegetables underwater and you add salt and create the right environment, that it's going to acidify it, which will make it last a lot longer. So in the past, when you'd harvest in just a few months and then you'd have to feed yourself for the rest of the year, depending on the environment that you lived in, you needed to be able to store food.
Wow.
And so this would have been a big boon. They might have had it in, say, a ceramic vessel, and water got into it, and it fermented. And then they learned that if they added salt, it changed the flavor, and it would last longer.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And nowadays, we have learned that one of the biggest part of our immune system is in our gut. So any way that we can that can help to produce a healthier gut really improves our immune system. So that's why fermented foods are really helpful for our gut, and that's why it can really boost our immune system.
They say about 80% of your immune system is related to your gut. So it's very important. We have two, depending on the size of the person, their age, whatnot, we have 2 to 6 pounds of bacteria in our intestinal tracts. And that's generating, you know, a good part of the immune system. The bacteria from the fermented foods line the intestines and help to protect it against bad bacteria.
Mm.
So it's a barrier for bad bacteria that can't enter your system then because of the good bacteria generated in the fermentation. And then the fermented foods have a lower pH, so they're more acidic, which makes your stomach more acidic. And one of the ways that bacteria can enter your system is through your stomach. So it's creating, again, a barrier for, if you think about it, there's a lot of competition for that environment within you. The bad bacteria constantly competing against the good bacteria. And by eating a little bit of fermented foods every day, you're increasing the good bacteria. So the other benefits are that when you ferment food, you're liberating a lot of nutrients that might not be bioavailable normally. So there's going to be more, for instance, vitamin B and some of the B complexes can be created or allowed to make, that your body can use them due to fermentation. And then there's vitamin C can be enriched and also vitamin K. So the fermentation process, when they're eating the sugars and the carbohydrates, the sugars, the starches in the foods and creating the lactic acid, they're also creating enzymes and more bacteria that are beneficial for you.
Right. Well, we also know as we age, we lose a lot of the acid that in our stomach that we need, like the hydrochloric acid, to digest proteins. So I can see how that eating fermented foods can help you digest proteins. So it helps your digestion as well.
Yes, very much so. It also is partially digesting the food because the longer the sugars and the starches are, the more difficult it is for your body to, digest those. So for instance, in like yogurt, some people are that are intolerant to lactose. It's partially broken down in the fermentation process so that when they eat kefir or certain kinds of cheeses or certain types of yogurts, it's easier for them to digest.
Yeah, so fermentation is kind of pre-digestion, and already fermented foods is already really easy to digest. Is that right?
Easier, yes. The bacteria is breaking it down, and then parts of the mechanical process of making it, like with sauerkraut, you're kind of beating the cabbage before you ferment it, which ruptures the cell walls. So more of the nutrients inside the cells are liberated and allowed to be easily digested.
So how did you decide to get into making fermented foods?
I've always had a strong interest in gardening
Mm.
and in cooking and in business. So I had a friend who has a master's in nutrition, and I was looking for a business, and she mentioned that fermentation was a big and growing field, as far as the research, as far as the health benefits, and as far as the market, within the marketplace that it was growing. But what was interesting is that eating fermented foods was very big over 100 years ago, and people knew a lot of the benefits, maybe intuitively more than scientifically like we know now. But as more and more food shifted to being processed, made in factories, they didn't do the natural fermentation. And so they were taking grains and degerminating them, taking a lot of the protein out of it, a lot of the fiber out of it. They were canning and preserving using chemicals and using heat treatments, which killed all the bacteria. And so what we do, we don't use any of that. There's no pasteurization, there's no preservatives. So it allows those bacteria, they're still alive in the jar. When you get a jar of our product, there's still live bacteria in it, and it's ready to, grow inside of you. So.
Well, that answered my next question. Was one of my questions was going to be what's special about your products. So that's what makes them special, is you still have the live bacteria in the products, right?
That's one of the things, yes. We're very selective about the vegetables and what we, purchase that goes into our products. And then we're very careful in the processing. We're a smaller organization, so we have a great team of people that take a lot of care in what we do. And we have a special room where we control the environment. So the temperature, the humidity are controlled. So what we're doing basically is farming this bacteria to produce our fermented foods. And we create the right environment through, submerging them in an anaerobic environment. That's an environment without oxygen. So the vegetables are submerged in a brine and a salt water. And then the bacteria at the right temperature are allowed to grow and develop. So it's all for them. And that produces the process of fermentation, which yields our products. So, but we're testing it every day, where the pH is at, the taste, the color, the texture, and then we pull it, we refrigerate it before we put it in the jars so that the fermentation process is stopped where we want it to be stopped. And that way we have a more consistent product and healthier, better tasting.
Wow, it sounds really good. But tell us about some of your favorite fermented foods, your favorite products, and then tell us about some of your recipes, how some good ways to actually eat fermented foods.
Sure. So we make sauerkraut, ginger carrot, beets, traditional kimchi with fish sauce, and a vegan kimchi without fish sauce.
Mm.
They're condiments, so you can do anything from eat them out of the jar to add them on salads, add them on sandwiches, any kind of main dishes with vegetables, with pasta, with grains. But the idea is to incorporate them into your diet, to have at least 2 or 3 or 4 tablespoons a day of different kinds of fermented foods, but lacto-fermented foods that are going to replenish your system constantly. So for instance, with the sauerkraut, I love to take it, make a salad with whatever vegetables you want, put the sauerkraut on top with blue cheese or gorgonzola, sunflower seeds or walnuts, a hard-boiled egg, fresh ground black pepper, and drizzle a little olive oil on it. That's a high fiber, low calorie, pre and probiotic, has protein, and is just delicious. Or you could take the beets with a salad with raspberries or strawberries or orange slices, any kind of fruit, with different kinds of nuts, with a olive oil and a vinaigrette dressing, and again, high fiber, low calorie, pre and probiotic. You could put feta cheese on it as a wonderful condiment for it. The ginger carrots are excellent on a spinach salad with bean sprouts, pea pods. You could put tofu or chicken breast, little rice wine vinegar or peanut oil. If you like garlic, you could add garlic or cayenne, cilantro, either chicken breast or tofu. A little rice wine vinegar and peanut oil for the dressing. But again, these dressings are very basic, so they're going to have the right kind of oils that are good for you and less calories than most of the traditional store-bought dressings.
Wow, that
The
sounds really good.
kimchi, yeah, they're rather addicting. What happens is the bacteria start to change the bacteria in your intestines over time as you eat fermented foods. It creates a better environment. And that feeds back to your brain. So it creates a desire in your brain to eat more fermented foods because your body knows it's good for you and because they're actually calling out to you. And besides the immune system, there's now a lot of research about the gut-brain connection.
Mm-hmm.
So that your stomach and your intestines are producing serotonin and other peptides and other chemicals that affect your brain and its function. And serotonin is the feel-good drug, so it's It's a way that people naturally, when you exercise, you're producing it, but you're also going to get it from eating the right kinds of foods, especially fermented foods.
Yeah, that
So
sounds.
there's this,
No, go ahead. I
direct
thought.
connection to food. Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
just a feedback loop. And
yeah.
the more people, eat right, exercise, right attitude, right everything, the more they want to do that. So other recipes like the kimchi would be excellent with eggs, with any kind of stir fry, with sauteed vegetables, with fish, with chicken, with tofu, any kind of meats. And again, just a quarter cup, 2, 3, 4 teaspoons a day can really, really change your basic health, physical and mental.
Well, that was really well expressed, and you got me convinced. I've got to start adding a lot more fermented foods to my diet. And so on your website where you sell it, is that Symbiotics? Uh, what is your website?
It's zymbiotixllc.com.
Oh yeah,
So that's
LLC.com. Yeah.
ZYMBIOTICS LLC.com, or just Google Symbiotics Fermented Foods and we should pop up.
Well, they don't even have to do that because, again, I'm going to remind all of our viewers, that the PDF that comes with your package, with your program, it has all of Jeff's contact information, all about his website and what any kind of offers he has or gifts or any all the information you need to contact him. And one more question I was going to ask you: do you have on your website? Do you have like some kind of a sampler thing where people can sample different products to see what they like?
Well, we sell it in a 4-pack,
Okay.
and so that way it's a custom made box specifically for us. We sell in glass jars, so it's important that we protect that jar. So we had a box custom made for us. It's got a compartment for the ice pack that fits on top. And then we always include a recipe, like a printed PDF recipe of ideas that they can use. They'll find additional recipes on our website, links to health benefits of, different of the fermented foods, and research articles and such, and then information about our company as well. And each of our products, what's in it, and additional information that way.
That sounds really good, Jeff. Well, thank you for much for all that really great information. And I know I'm going to start putting a lot more fermented foods in my diet, and I highly recommend you do the same. And definitely, check out Jeff's website and try some of his products. I'm definitely going to do that, and I think it's going to make a big difference. And I always want to let everybody know that all of our experts, we've chosen experts that we know that really have some strategies and tips and products that can really make a difference in your overall health and well-being. And that's what this whole project's about, is how to take the very best care of your body and your mind so you can live a healthier, more energetic and vital life and go out and make a bigger difference in the world. So Jeff, once again, I like to always ask the last question to all my experts is that, what ideas do you have to really get people motivated to actually, well, in this case, to actually try your products and see all the health benefits that they're going to get? Any idea to actually get people to say, okay, I'm actually going to do this, because I like to always say, knowledge without action is useless. So we got to take advantage of the knowledge. So what ideas do you have that get people to actually try your products out?
Sure. I think the basic things you have to ask yourself, do you feel like you're the best you could be? Do you feel good every day? If you, as much as possible, obviously we're humans and all of us have our ups and downs and physical, whatever. But am I doing what I can do to make myself the best person I can for myself, for the people I love, for the people around me? And just delve in a little bit to the research. And you'll find that, society has changed so much in the last 100 or 200 years. And if we go back to some of the roots, some of the traditions that we had for thousands of years, and why did they do that? And ask yourself, would you like to feel better with a simple action of taking a couple tablespoons of a good tasting food every day? If that could make you feel a little bit better, a little less cramps in your stomach, a little less, digestion problems, a few less colds a year, a little less flu. And now with the pandemic, I mean, I think everything that we can do to help ourselves, it's just important to do it for yourself and for the people you love.
So well said. And I totally agree. I totally agree. This is all about how we can better care for ourselves, how we can avoid a lot of needless pain and diseases and health issues by just getting educated and doing all the things that this whole program, this project's about, that we've been teaching you, that can make a huge difference. So I know, again, I promise you that if you follow the advice of all of our experts, your overall health and well-being is going to be greatly improved. So thanks for being here. And again, the last word is you just got to go out and do it. Step up and take responsibility for your
One
health.
step at a time.
One step at a time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Jeff, thank you so much. That was great. I really appreciate you being here.
Okay.